here. I want to give you an idea of the communities that are being affected and should be evacuated as soon as possible. It's a little bit of a tricky area when it comes to this evacuation zone. I'll start with the easiest part. First of all, here's where the fire is. I'm going to move it. I'm going to open it up just a little bit. That's where the fire is currently burning in this direction. This is the canyon it's in. This is Hollywood Boulevard right down here. Sorry about that. Let me move it up. This is Hollywood Boulevard that comes right along here. That is the south side of the evacuation zone. So everything above it is being evacuated. Let me expand out a little bit more, move it over a little bit more. Laurel Canyon, which is right here. This is Laurel Canyon. That is the western edge of the evacuation zone. So anything on this side of the Laurel Canyon. And then if we get to the top, Mulholland Drive, which is right over here. So it's basically this area right here. So I know this is a little
welcome in
complicated,
to
but let me just
HamShackTV. I'm your host, Josh,
a few of these communities that you've
again got a major
before, like
breaking
Mount
news
Olympus,
situation, not
Hercules
radio
Drive,
wave, but very
Achilles Drive,
devastating,
Willow Glen,
very devastating information.
Nichols
All day today
Canyon,
I've been following
Waddles Drive,
these
and then all the way
wildfires
to
out in Los
Hollywood
Angeles County,
Boulevard,
California.
just north of Hollywood
you know,
Boulevard.
that
So
place
this
is
whole strip
pretty
of homes right here.
pretty special to
Look
me.
at all
I
of these
visited out there a little over a year ago. It was my first trip to California.
And if they haven't heard about the evacuation and you somebody lives there, get a
kind
hold
of hits
of them.
home a little bit.
You're talking about North Orange Grove.
Anyway,
Nichols Canyon, you could see is much more
three
populous than
wildfires.
the
The two major ones have been.
There's homes all along the way.
The Palisades,
Drive,
just north of Santa Monica.
Look at all of these homes up in the hills. In addition to that, look at all the fuel that's around all of these homes that could catch on fire quite easily.
Directly
so
north
these
of Los
communities
Angeles. Now we've all of a sudden
right
had
now.
a
The
wildfire
Hills,
develop.
Classically, the Hollywood Hills, but also leading down into Hollywood and Hollywood Boulevard. And if this fire continues to go,
Hollywood, right up against
Boulevard.
Hollywood. This
Let's
is
say if it continues to travel south
the
with
Runyon
the pushing of the
Canyon
winds,
area,
then you're
which
getting
is
into Sunset
directly
Boulevard, Santa Monica Boulevard,
directly north, less than a mile
heart
north
of Hollywood, the heart of Los Angeles, right here
is
now
Boulevard.
in harm's way. That's why we're watching this.
LA fire officials are now evacuating.
Actually, David, we're going to toss it over to
Hollywood,
Dallas Rains,
California,
meteorologist Dallas Rains, tracking
north
these
of
winds.
Hollywood Boulevard,
Dallas,
all the way
what can you
over
tell us
to
about these
the
particular
101
winds in this
freeway.
area?
Let's listen into what this meteorologist is saying here.
As Chris was mentioning, remember that, yes,
Let's
we're
drop
not in
in
those
chat. Let me know who's all
powerful
watching.
winds that we had yesterday, but it's still a red flag warning for Southern California. And the winds that are blowing through the canyons here and Hollywood Hills are at about 25, 30 miles per hour. Occasionally you'll get a gust, and they're still from the north and northeast blowing to the south and southwest. So that's what they're dealing with. And I was checking just a few minutes ago. The relative humidity of the air at tonight is 8%. So the air gets drier and drier.
Very dry.
At night, the humidity goes up a little bit, but that is not happening in this situation. So this fire, driven by terrain, of course.
Let's share the stream out and get it out there. Let's get as many people watching as we can. If you know anybody
those winds come over
in
the top of
Los
the hills,
Angeles County,
out of the
get
north
them
and
aware.
northeast,
Get them aware
driving
and
the fire toward the
make
south.
sure they know what's
Red
going
flag
on.
warnings are going to stay with us.
It'd be
When
hard
we
for
look at the
somebody
wind
not to know what's
profiles
going
right
on
now,
with
they're
all the
pretty much as
smoke.
we thought
All
they
the
would be
cameras I've been
this
seeing all
time
day have been
yesterday.
pretty
Everything is down, but it's still a
pretty
Santa Ana
smoke
wind blowing through those
covered.
canyon passes. You can see Santa Clarita there at 25, not 45, thank goodness. Up in Pasadena, they dropped off to about 10 miles per hour in the city. And of course, no wind down in the South Bay of any significance. But even in the Palisades, we're getting 15 to occasional.
I got to go take care of a baby here for a moment,
30.
folks.
Now,
I will be back here shortly. In the meantime, we'll stay with ABC-7
closer to that area of
in
low
Los
pressure,
Angeles there.
or out in the IE. Look at the winds being recorded right now. Out at San Bernardino, we saw wind gusts of 45. Their humidity, 14%. Also through the canyons down in Orange County, we're still seeing winds up there, 25, 35, even 45 miles per hour. Humidities again at about 10, 15%. Here's kind of an overall view of how dry the air can be in these canyons. 10%, that's at Burbank Airport. And as I mentioned, 8% up in the canyon. Really, really dry air, which is typical for a Santa Ana event. The winds are blowing from the landmass, the continent, out to sea. So you don't get any moisture from the ocean at all. We'll continue to watch this for you, Ellen and David, and track the weather conditions for you throughout the evening.
All right, Dallas.
Okay.
Well, this latest fire is mandatory evacuations taking place. Of course, a lot of people exiting this area. We want to get a look at the traffic with Chris Christie overhead in Air 7. Give us a little bit of insight into how bad it is right now and how soon these people need to get out.
And it looks like we're starting to call this fire the Sunset Fire. I hope I'm not in error about that, but it looks like that's the name they're giving it, is the Sunset Fire, Chris.
You are correct. It is now the Sunset Fire, and it is getting closer and closer to this neighborhood along Vista Street, just north of Franklin Avenue. Fire helicopters flying through the shot here, and I'm paying particular attention to that brand new spot fire right there on the leading edge. Now, the rest of that fire is going to merge with it anyways, but that's a brand new spark that just happened a moment ago. That means those embers are indeed flying through the canyon in the southerly direction towards Hollywood Boulevard, and the fire is starting to kind of leapfrog itself closer and closer to these homes. Fortunately, at this juncture, we have not seen any homes or structures touched, but we are mere minutes away unless they can put out that spot fire and kill the leading edge of this fire. And even that will only delay things because you have large flare-ups like the one near the top of your screen right there. See that big flare-up right there, guys? That is creating a huge amount of embers that are continuing to blow through here and continue to creep south towards Hollywood Boulevard.
And you can see how fast that wind is going. As you can see that smoke just going south very quickly.
I know it's difficult to see because it's dark there, but how close to homes are you right now, Chris, when it comes to the flames?
No more than 100 feet. No more than 100 feet there. Less than 100 feet if you live along Vista Street. If you live along Vista Street, there are house lights in the shot, and there is fire practically in the backyard.
Okay.
Right there. That's a new spot fire, literally in somebody's backyard, I think, as it continues to spot ahead of itself. 2 spot fires. You see that tree on the left and a new tree or shrub or whatever on fire now on the right. Again, the embers are continuing to create new fires little by little by little. In fact, is there a flame on Vista? Is that a headlight or is that a city? That might be a house light. Okay, that's just a house light. But you can get an idea of the proximity to those houses now that this fire is getting closer and closer.
Chris, traffic-wise, are you seeing any kind of strings of cars trying to get out of there? Or I worry the word is not getting out that they need to leave.
I worry about the same thing, David. I don't see any traffic coming from this neighborhood. Hollywood Boulevard is now suddenly coming to a standstill, and you can see why, because basically people are catching wind of what's going on here. They're driving through Hollywood, and all of a sudden they're in a cloud of smoke and catching a glimpse of the bright fire up on the hillside here. So that's Hollywood Boulevard on the right-hand side of your screen. Lots of brake lights, lots of headlights as fire crews try and make their way through here. The one good thing here is that we're seeing more helicopters arrive on scene, and we are seeing more water drops. But look at all those flashing lights. Those are all fire trucks making their way into the neighborhood and hopefully getting into position. I presume, even though it's dark and we can't see this very clearly, I presume they're already in the process of trying to set up for structure protection in the neighborhood just north of Hollywood Boulevard. Now, the evacuation order, as I understand it, extends to the south up to Hollywood Boulevard. That's for now. If this neighborhood catches on fire, expect that to grow. And I mean, if this becomes an urban fire in the middle of Hollywood, you know, God help us, but this evacuation area could grow, and it could grow in short order, like within the hour. So let's keep a close eye on this.
Sorry, obviously very dangerous situation evolving in Los Angeles, California, specifically the Hollywood area. For those of you that are not in the United States, Hollywood is the center of our entertainment in this country. You can see we've got new fires developing right around Runyon Canyon Road. And see, we've got traffic trying to get out of Los Angeles, or out of Hollywood there. Hollywood has been evacuated, at least north of Hollywood Boulevard. They are evacuating that as we speak. You can see the smoke flowing down towards Hollywood Boulevard. That's what makes it extraordinarily dangerous. Wind levels are extremely high. So that is pushing all this smoke and fire down towards Hollywood Boulevard. I'll let y'all get back to ABC-7, Los Angeles, and we'll come back with some commentary later.
We will see if they can keep this fire from jumping Runyon Canyon Road, but it's going to be very difficult with those embers flying through the air.
Right. Okay, so we know where this fire at least was reported. This is Solar Drive right here. This one street, I'm going to expand it out a little bit further. And the reason why I'm showing you that, the point of origin, 2300 Solar Drive, that could have been where somebody spotted it and reported it, or it could have been where it started. But this is Solar Drive, okay? So now I'm going to kind of push out a little bit and give you a better idea. So this is the point of origin, and then we're showing this fire went all the way down this canyon, and now all of this is on fire. As Chris was just saying, Runyon Canyon is in trouble right over here. All of this is now on fire, and this is a matter of minutes we're talking about as it continues to go in this direction south. So for some reason, it started right there. Ellen, I'm going to throw it back to you.
All right, we got to tell everybody that we're going to stay on the air here on KABC-7 or ABC-7 and not go to World News tonight with David Muir because of the nature of this breaking news. So you can stick around and we'll find out more about this fire that is rapidly growing. And so we're going to keep a close eye on this, of course.
All right, Ellen, thanks. And we're going to stay on top of our coverage digitally.
On the air until 7.
On the air until 7 o'clock as we continue. And let's throw it back over to Chris Christie with more as this fire continues to spread towards Runyon Canyon Drive.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the further the fire continues to spread southward, so does that smoke, and you can already see it more and more by the minute. A lot of that thick black smoke now drifting right over the Hollywood area. This entire area is now being blanketed by really thick and unhealthy smoke. Obviously, it is time to get out if you live anywhere in this area. You can take a look at Hollywood Boulevard along the left side of your screen here. Lots of traffic starting to build up there. And even on Franklin Avenue, as those are more than likely evacuees. Those are probably folks already trying to get out of here. Some of it is pass-through traffic. Some people use Franklin Avenue as a shortcut through Hollywood to get around Hollywood and Highland. But you can see traffic up and down Franklin Avenue is now bumper to bumper as folks try and flee away from this fire. Camino Palmero Street and Franklin Avenue is the closest major intersection to this fire. Vista Street is the closest known residential street to this fire. And I actually see a little bit of a flare-up on the other side as well. Go ahead and widen out for me, Lucas. Widen out and push into the top right-hand corner now of the fire. That's going to be the end of Carson Avenue, where I want to focus just for a second to see if there's any structures that are being threatened here. We're going to come around here. You can see some of the houses at the end of the neighborhood we've been talking about here. We're going to get a better glimpse as we come around the north side. So now we're on the north side of the fire, on the San Fernando Valley side, over Mulholland Drive, looking south with the fire and wind blowing away from Air 7. And right along the right side, as we come around this ridgeline, you're going to see Carson Avenue, and we'll see if there's any sign whatsoever. It looks like the wind is actually helping these folks. It's reaching the top of the wind, the top of the ridgeline right there, and then it would have to go downhill, which is not convenient for the fire, right? Everything's blowing in the other direction, and fire likes to go uphill. So the folks along Carson Avenue have the luxury of being below the fire instead of above the fire. So Carson Avenue on the right there is down the hill from that flare-up right there. So we're going to continue to watch this section right here as more flare-ups develop, more spot fires develop, and we'll keep a closer eye now. Look at it, another flare-up right there and a spot fire in somebody's almost feet away from somebody's backyard. Go ahead and widen out a little bit. You can see a home right there. Let's go ahead and throw up go ahead and throw me the parcel. Show me the parcel, Lucas. We want to get some addresses out there. It's going to be right behind Carson Avenue here along the 2000 block of Carson. You can see the home, 1984 Carson Avenue, with fire just feet away from the rear of that home.
Okay, so I've been able to isolate Carson Avenue here on our touch screen as well. You can see where the fire is burning in this canyon here. This is Carson. This is the street that Chris is talking about. And you can see all the sizable homes that are along Carson Avenue as the fire continues to creep towards these homes right here. These are the ones in imminent danger right now, but as that fire rolls in different directions, of course, there are other communities in danger as well. As you can see, highly populated. The further the fire goes down the canyon, the more homes that are going to be in trouble. Chris, I'm going to throw it back to you as you watch this fires progress.
Yeah, we're going to continue to kind of wrap ourselves around this, watching it spot not only to the south now, but also spotting a little bit over towards the west. So we're going to keep an eye on Carson Avenue, but I think the focus here still remains on Hillside Avenue, Vista Street, and Franklin Avenue right there. That neighborhood on the right is now under threat by that fire on the left because the wind is blowing directly towards Franklin Avenue, right along Vista Street. Thankfully, up until now, we have not seen any structures on fire. And even if it is imminent, at least they have the luxury of getting more water on it sooner rather than later, and hopefully do something to impede the forward progress of this fire. But it is continuing to grow, continuing to spread, and continuing to spot ahead of itself based on these winds. And there's another water drop right there. LA City Fire, again, smothering this area with as many resources as possible. This is now the priority at the moment. Of course, they can multitask and they can address multiple emergencies at the same time, but it is a good time to pray for our city.
Yeah. An incredible chain of events that have occurred, because we do want to eventually get back to the other fires, which homes are still going up in flames, Colleen, and a dire situation over there as well. But this is highly important because we're dealing with a highly populous area and a fire that is on the move very, very quickly, a brand new fire, and they're trying to get as many resources on that as possible.
Yeah, this is one of those areas that we know would be prone during these kind of storm events. But again, this area is so highly populated. I'm curious to see when we're going to start seeing that mass exodus trying to get down Laurel Canyon or in the Cahuenga neighborhood area where they have to get down, because there's really only two arteries outside of this area. They're going to have to go Laurel Canyon, or they're going to have to go down to get to Cahuenga. But again, this is one of those areas that there are so many homes dotted along this area. This is exactly what none of these homeowners want to see. But again, at least it's right now in the brush. And we do know that LA County Fire, they've also been asked to join in this firefight. But again, you can see this. Thank goodness the winds seem like they're slightly calmed down compared to what we were seeing hours earlier, when, you know, the flames would start and then they would be horizontal, laying flat and just really blowing through this area. Mm-hmm. But Chris Christie, you're overhead as well. I'm not sure. Again, I know you noticed earlier to see if we saw a lot of cars making their way through this area. I'm just curious, because we know how heavily populated this area is. I don't see a huge amount of traffic, or maybe just so high up.
Well, go ahead. We can actually show you Hollywood Boulevard. We're keeping an eye on the traffic, and in the time that we've been here, we've watched things come to a practical standstill, partially due to the fact that LA City Fire has so many trucks now blocking Hollywood Boulevard. So it's really difficult, if not impossible, to get through here. And if they don't already, I would imagine there's somebody down there directing traffic. But essentially, the yellow tape is going to start going up and prevent access to the neighborhood. I encountered that last night when I was driving up to the Hearst fire in Sylmar. But right now, it looks like you see some traffic now. That's a good sign right there. Those are folks along Camino Palmero Street that are now fleeing the neighborhood. Those are evacuees coming down Camino Palmero Street from left to right there towards Hollywood Boulevard. Those are all folks. That street dead ends, and those folks are now coming away from the fire. So folks are definitely heeding the warnings. They're getting word of this, and they're getting out fast.
All right, Chris.
And welcome, everybody. I see several of you joining. Welcome to HamShackTV. I'm your host, Josh, AA4WX. Major breaking news situation out of California. Hollywood, California is now under the mandatory evacuation, as you can see there on the screen. Got a massive wildfire in Runyon Canyon. We are dipping in and out of ABC-7's coverage in Los Angeles. So just want to mention, you know, this is kind of hit home for me. I visited Los Angeles last year, first time out there, and loved it. It's such a wonderful town, and specifically Hollywood. That's the entertainment capital of the United States. So we're watching very closely. I'm really worried about this gridlock traffic on Hollywood Boulevard. Very, very concerning. So anyway, again, welcome to HamShackTV. If you're new here, please hit the subscribe button down below and the like button, and go ahead and share out the stream. Let as many people get in here and watch as possible. And thanks for watching. We'll send you back to ABC-7 in Los Angeles.
As many people or units involved in this firefight as possible. Now, let me point this out because I'm getting some texts and emails as I'm going to shrink it a little bit. This is the fire area we're talking about. Now, if you live north, like towards the valley here, towards Toluca Lake, towards Burbank, you're okay because the fire is going in this direction. It's not going north. It's this area south of the fire that is in trouble. The hills right now of Hollywood and just south of the hills, that's the area that we're most concerned with right now as this firefight is well underway. Colleen, I'll throw it back over to you.
Yeah, David, we're taking a very good look at that map. Is really, really helpful to kind of give an idea of where this fire is located, because we know the Hollywood Hills, they are very, very congested. And that's the luxury and the wonderful thing about living in the Hollywood Hills. You can see Hollywood Boulevard right there. You can see all those cars. It seems like, you know, fire officials have been saying, please stay off the roads unless you need to. Be on the roads. And this is one of the reasons why. You never know where a fire could pop up, and then you have evacuees trying to get out as quickly as possible. I'm not sure how many people in this area decided to be proactive and get their ready, set, go plan in place. But again, this is one of those areas where I'm always concerned about. I know many of us have lived in these areas. A lot of us currently live in this area. It's very close to everything, and that's why this area is very congested with a lot of homes. But again, Runyon Canyon, we all enjoy Runyon Canyon, and you can see Runyon Canyon right there is on fire, and it's wonderful to see the air support allowed to help in this firefight this evening, because we were not so fortunate last night to have air support. And yes, Chris, actually, we do see your sky map on, which is great to see. I know I can hear you ever so slightly, Chris, but we're looking at the manual.
These are some of the evacuation, the orders that are now underway because of this Sunset Fire. We just want to highlight some key areas. If you live near Laurel Canyon Boulevard to the 101 freeway, Mulholland Drive to Hollywood Boulevard, those are the borders of the evacuation zone. It's largely around the canyons, up in the hills, and then south towards Hollywood Boulevard. That's the area we're talking about. If you live, in those hills particularly, that's where there's a lot of fuel, and that's where this fire broke out, and it's consuming property really, really quickly. Although, if we can check back in with Chris, to this moment, though, you haven't seen any buildings on fire yet.
No buildings that we have observed, but there are now two major flare-ups. There's one in the foreground here, right there in the center of your screen. And if you tilt up just a little bit, Lucas, you can see on the other side of the ridgeline, there's another flare-up on the backside, on the other side of that ridgeline. Those tall flames are what really create the most danger, because that is creating embers that are already flying at a higher altitude than lower shrubbery and things like that. So you have really tall flames starting to flare up as the fire encounters some thicker brush. Hopefully these people have some degree of brush clearance, but in these winds it really doesn't matter. I can only say that, again, thankfully, if this was 24 hours ago, we would already be in trouble. Now they have a little bit more time to prepare to get out, and the fire department has a little bit more time to try and get in front of it. But it is a wait-and-see game at this hour.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris, we are going to be talking on the phone with Phil Mercado. Phil, we understand you are being evacuated right now. Where do you live in this area that is in the evacuation zone?
We are just off of Curson Avenue, north of Hollywood Boulevard.
How did you find out about this and how quickly did you have to react?
Well, the crazy thing is my husband and I have 3 kids, and I was out with 2 of them, and we were on our way home, and a friend over in Nichols Canyon called us and asked if we got the warning to evacuate because she saw a fire on the hill across. And so I called my husband and our son, who they heard some helicopters, but they thought it was LA. They didn't think anything of it. And I told them that they had to evacuate.
Yeah. And were you at all, when you saw the Santa Ana wind event about to happen over the last few days of monitoring it, did you at all put together a ready, set, go plan or have any bag or anything? Or is this one of those things where, you know, many of us live in this community and then you kind of just hope that nothing happens?
It was a little bit of both. You know, we just knew that we needed, you know, laptops and phones and some personal stuff that we kind of had at the ready. And we backed all of our cars in case we had to make a speedy exit. And, you know, I thought actually through the evening we would probably have to do it just because the winds were so crazy. But luckily nothing happened last night. And unfortunately now it's happening.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is a brand spanking new fire that we were hoping wouldn't happen. We have enough to deal with, obviously. When I'm assuming you then got out and you're safe
Yes.
right now. And what was that experience like getting out? Did you run into traffic? Is the rest of your community responding?
Yeah, so, you know, we're all on a good community WhatsApp up here in Crescent Canyon, and everybody, it was just basically blowing up and telling everybody to get out. And, you know, I was a couple of blocks from home when I got the call from our friend. So I was able to see the fire, which is crazy. We got our pets, we took our cars out, and we evacuated.
Thank goodness. And you have a place to go.
We do.
Okay. And by the way, that does beg the question. We don't know if there's an evacuation center set up yet for the folks in this community. As soon as we get that information, we'll, of course, turn it over to you. But the first and foremost, they're trying to fight this fire. What if this fire is not contained soon? What are we going to lose up in the hills where you live?
Well, you know, sadly, it's fairly concentrated. And, you know, we are perched down here at Ogden and Sunset right now. So we actually have a pretty good view. And you can see the planes dropping the water, and it seems to mitigate it for a little while, and then all of a sudden you'll see some other areas that, you know, spark up again. So sadly, our street, which is right off of North Crescent, they were dropping water on our neighbor's house, so I'm sure our house is affected by this. And you can basically see all of Runyon Canyon just glowing right now.
Yeah.
No kidding. That's so eerie to see. What about the weather where in your area? Are you feeling the winds kicking up in this area? We know how sometimes night comes, the winds kick up, and you know these areas, they take on their own weather as well.
It seems like the winds really did pick up. I mean, this afternoon, things seemed to calm down, and then the moment the sun was starting to set, it seemed like the wind started picking up, and it's pretty windy right now and chilly.
And how are your kids responding right now? Being
Well, they're resilient teens, and they are all surviving because they have their devices, and they're checking in with all of their friends that are asking if we're okay, and so they seem to be doing okay. And you know, we keep telling them that as long as we're all okay, it's just stuff. So we're you know, as long as we have each other, we're all good.
Amen. One last question for you.
Sure.
Did you live in that? Have you lived in that home very long?
Since 1997.
Oh, wow.
And this is the second time that we've had to evacuate. There was a small fire up above us years ago, but easily contained, nothing like this whatsoever.
Wow. Well, I'm sure there's a lifelong memories in that home. Hopefully you'll stay safe. Phil Mercado, thank you so much for talking to us. You've been a wealth of information.
And hello and welcome to HamShackTV. See, several more have joined the viewing party here. I shouldn't make light of this. Very, very dangerous, vulnerable situation setting up. By the way, I'm Josh, AA4WX. This is normally a ham radio channel, but I also cover big weather and news events. And this is the big news right now. We've got a massive wildfire just to the north of Hollywood. Literally just to the north of Hollywood, spreading down towards Hollywood Boulevard. Most of Hollywood has been evacuated. You've been watching coverage of this event from ABC-7. That's KABC-TV in Los Angeles. And they're doing a bang-up job. This helicopter shot that they can superimpose the map over, that's amazing technology. I've never seen that before. But we're watching it closely. Very dangerous situation. They've got a couple of other fires in Los Angeles County. They've got one over towards the Pacific Palisades and another one towards Eaton, which is near Pasadena. So we'll stay here and watch it. Again, I want to thank ABC-7 in Los Angeles for their coverage, and we'll send you back over to them. We'll check back in with you shortly.
We're pushing around that 20-acre range, so we're still seeing that. And then there again, the Palisades fire, same kind of idea. Again, those winds coming on the north-northeast, blowing towards the south. There, too, the winds are quite strong. The Hearst fire also 20-mile-per-hour winds with those heavier gusts as well. So we're seeing those fires all still very active and still very concerned. Hence, that red flag warning in effect now until Friday in most spots. So, David, Colleen, we're seeing more of this, and we're tracking it continuously throughout the nighttime, of course.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Danny. Let's talk about our team of eyewitness news reporters. They are fanning out following these fires. Let's go to Tim Caputo. Tim, you are in Hollywood. Where exactly are you located? And obviously, we see a lot of cars behind you.
By the way, there is an 8-second delay for Tim, so bear with us while we throw to him, and he'll kick it in just a few seconds. Go ahead, Tim.
Yes. Yeah, cell phone service has been spotty, especially in the hardest hit areas. We're on Franklin Avenue. If you know this area, you know this street gets particularly busy, but nothing quite like this. Because of the evacuations, this road is absolutely smacked with cars practically in every direction. As we were coming in from the Glendale area, you could barely get up the street here, and now you have all these cars heading out, and you could see why over my shoulder there. We're obviously on the ground level and looking up into Runyon Canyon. You could see the smoke, obviously, and the fire glow in the night sky right now. And obviously, from this vantage point, a whole lot of people are seeing that and figuring out where to go from here. We actually spoke with a young man just maybe 2 minutes ago coming down the stairs of this apartment building here on Franklin with 2 suitcases and a couple backpacks. And he said, I got the evacuation and I just had to get out of here. He didn't even really have a plan from this point. He just figured he needed to get away from here. Obviously, folks who've been watching for the last 2 days or so, seeing the Palisades, seeing Altadena, Pasadena, not really thinking, oh, we're in harm's way. Everything changed in an instant in the last 20, 30 minutes, hour or so. As you see behind me, that seems to be coming down the canyon. Now, the wind is obviously blowing it away from where we are right now. We're at Outpost, kind of near Sycamore. Outpost goes all the way up to Mulholland. You can get to kind of where that fire is, but it seems to be moving in a more kind of west direction. So this particular area might not be specifically at risk, but I'll tell you, for the folks who are grabbing their luggage, for the folks who are getting in their cars, they don't care if it's a little bit that way, because if this is even remotely at risk, they are getting out of this area. And you see behind me all this traffic coming up and down the street. A lot of these folks, and there are hotels over here as well. We've seen a handful of people grabbing all their luggage. One guy told me he was checking out early because he just needed to get out of here, and rightfully so. We'll look to the left here in front of the hotel. You have a number of people who are kind of grabbing their luggage, grabbing their things, and leaving here. As we look down Franklin towards Highland, it is completely packed with cars trying to get out of here. That's why you're even seeing cars essentially take every single route they can out of here, because if you're trying to get to Highland to get out of Dodge that way, it is packed, it is slow moving. So we have all these people essentially trying to get out of here because of the fire. And even if you're not looking right at the fire, you could actually see the glow coming off the smoke as you look up into Runyon Canyon. And if you know the area as well, it's not just homes here. Well, there are a lot of homes as you get up into the hills. These are a lot of apartments, meaning it's an awful lot of people. So once they get in their cars and they start moving out of here, you have this big influx of people getting into their vehicles and trying to leave. And that's why you have all these traffic jams here in Hollywood of people trying to get essentially any direction away from Runyon Canyon. It is slow moving, but certainly people grabbing their things and going. They're heeding those warnings. They're doing it early, but it's obviously going to take a long time for those folks.
All right, Tim, thank you. Monitor the situation. A lot is going on, and we want to check back with you because that is tremendous, that traffic to get out of there. I'm worried about the gridlock and folks eventually panicking. We don't know. We don't want to happen today what happened yesterday when folks just decided to leave their cars. That would be a disaster, especially in Hollywood. Monitor the situation. We'll get back to you. One quick note, we might have said this before, but LAUSD is canceling all classes tomorrow, January 9th. Because of the fire danger throughout Southern California, throughout Los Angeles. No. So if you have a child in LAUSD, you will not go to school tomorrow, and they are waiting. They will determine tomorrow on whether or not you are going to go to class on Friday. In the meantime, we do have a phone interview for you.
Yeah, with Hervé Levy, the general manager of Magic Castle. And thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Levy. Let's talk about it. You're really right in the area where the evacuation zone is happening, and you are right on Franklin. What are you seeing from your vantage point?
So it's a very scary situation here. We have been prepared to evacuate, for the last hour or two. And we also have a couple of people to try to water down the roof of the castle. The fire is definitely a fast-moving fire, and we are very worried that it's going all direction. We can tell that it's very close, maybe like a mile or so. If I believe what I see right here.
Were you having any shows taking place tonight? This is a really beloved landmark of Los Angeles. Everybody wants to go and see all the magicians there. Did you have a show and a dinner scheduled for this evening?
Well, luckily, because of the fires on the west side and in the Altadena, we decided to close the castle earlier today. Make sure everyone, the staff specifically, to be safe. So we closed down and we left the castle sometime this afternoon, and we found out later on that we had a new fire popping by. So it was definitely unfortunate, but it was definitely fortunate that the castle was already closed.
I'm amazed that you guys already closed it. So you have people there right now trying to put some water on the castle. What's the status of that situation right now from people who who are at the castle?
So we had a few security officers and a director of facility that is on site right now. I know it's trying to give a few directions to the security guards and make sure that we get enough moisture on the roof, but also on the greenery around the castle. Obviously, with the evacuation process, we don't want to stay too long, and I'm going to be asking the staff to move very soon, but we wanted to make sure that at least, we try to do something to save the castle if the fire goes this way.
Yeah, absolutely. And David Ono, you have the Magic Castle right there on that touchscreen to give people an idea of exactly where this iconic LA landmark is.
Yeah, if we have 2 seconds, I did isolate the Magic Castle. It is right here on Franklin Boulevard. And well, let's first go to Chris Christie. Oh, here we go. So here's the Magic Castle right here, Franklin Boulevard. This is what he's talking about. And if I expand out a little bit, then you can see this is right in the center of the evacuation zone. Here's where the fire is, right over here. So as he said, it's very, very close. This is the spot of Magic Castle. This is where the fire is burning down the canyon right now. So yeah, very much this iconic landmark is in danger right now. And let's go over to Chris Christie, who is continuing to watch the progress of this fire. Chris?
Yeah, you're a firefighter. Yeah, David, we're just, I'm sorry, we're doing a couple things at once here. You got a whole bunch of fire trucks now making their way up Curson Avenue, a welcome sight for the residents who live in this neighborhood. Hopefully they have evacuated or were not home, but now these firefighters can start protecting those structures if this fire continues to spread to the west. In the meantime, we're more focused at the moment to the south as the fire, the leading edge of this fire, is continuing to create spot fires, albeit not at the same pace as it was about an hour ago. I'm losing track of time, but you can see that the forward progress is slowing. It has not stopped. There are new fires starting as we speak. In fact, that patch of trees right there near the bottom of your screen, that's a brand new fire, and it is even closer to Vista Street and closer to Franklin Avenue. However, if you look at this shot, the winds have slowed down ever so slightly. You can see the smoke blowing, but not exactly at the same clip as a little bit earlier. And maybe that is helping out the situation quite a bit. But in the meantime, it is still spotting, it is still blowing. They are still dropping water on this fire, trying to cut it off at the pass, essentially. But this entire neighborhood still should be leaving right now.
The reassuring thing is when on your past shots just a few minutes ago, they are hitting this thing from the air. which is something we didn't have access to yesterday. So hopefully that is making a dent, as well as all the ground crews that are moving into place. So what is your assessment, Chris, before we lose you? What is your assessment on how this fire is suddenly going? Because there was grave concern during the 5 o'clock hour when this first broke out.
I think the concern is very much alive. However, the forward progress is slowing. They have dropped a lot of water on the fire, but that leading edge, that group of flames right there, is very unpredictable and is still at risk of spreading throughout this neighborhood, potentially. But don't take any chances. Definitely heed the warnings.
Absolutely. And there's so much fuel, as you can see, tremendous amount of trees. And if you're familiar at all with the canyons, you know what the potential is if that catches on fire, which is it absolutely is. I want to go back to the general manager, Mr. Levy from the Magic Castle. Has the Magic Castle been ever threatened by fire like this before that you know of? And give us a little bit about the history.
So the Magic Castle was founded back in 1962, and we had a fire in 2011, but that was not a hill fire. It was a fire that was, from an accident, roof accidents, and some of the building burned down, but we were able to save a lot of the art thanks to the firefighter at the time. They were able to secure a lot of the artwork and the pieces, valuable pieces that Magic Castle is famous for. But we never had any kind of other fires such as this one. This one is really scary.
Yeah, it's frightening. We get it, and so many other people are under duress as well. Thank you for heeding the warning, letting us know that you're taking this seriously. Any final words before we let you go as this fire approaches the whole Hollywood area?
Just stay safe. Don't try to be a hero. Really try to evacuate when the city asks you to evacuate. It is very serious stuff. So please be safe. Your family needs to be safe as well.
Absolutely. Mr. Levy, thank you so much for calling us. I was just there at the Magic Castle about 3 months ago with the family. It is a great time. And you've been there as well. They're calling. You've enjoyed yourself there. Thank you so much. The best of luck to you. We'll check back with you.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
All right. Well, now we're going to go back to Tim Caputo. Tim, you're pretty close to the Magic Castle. You're on Hollywood Boulevard. Are you on Franklin?
And he has an 8-second delay as a reminder. So Tim, take it away.
Yeah, so we're on Franklin, actually right at La Brea right now. We walked up the street to get a little bit closer. You actually can't see the fire as well. As we go up the hill a little bit, you see a little bit of the glow, but I wanted to move to this spot specifically to show you the traffic jam and issues that are happening right now. In fact, LAPD, about 4 different cars just pulled up about 5 minutes ago to try to alleviate some of this gridlock coming down from the Hollywood Hills and from Runyon Canyon out into La Brea and on Franklin over to Highland, because the issue is right now, as people are evacuating, there's not enough room for all these cars to go. You see it behind me going up the street here. That's why we got a couple police officers really just trying to direct traffic to get them to come down the street. We're standing safely in the street right now because no one is moving. And we turn around here, Will, this is Franklin right now, and you're looking right down La Brea with all the red lights. Those are people trying to get away from the fire as far away as possible. Now, keep in mind, just about 10 minutes ago when we spoke with you, we were physically on Franklin, maybe 4 or 5 blocks in that direction towards Highland. That was jam-packed going that direction as well. Folks here trying to get out really any way they can because of the evacuation we see over and over again. Check out behind me, guys with backpacks, with duffel bags, with suitcases. They're trying to get out of town. Some people, whether they're leaving hotels or leaving apartment buildings, are trying to leave. We spoke with you a second ago. Can I ask you a question? Yes. You were staying here and you're leaving because of the fire?
Yeah, I mean, I live here. I've been here for 21 years, but yeah, it's time to get out, I think.
When you see the fires all in the other places, whether it's Pacific Palisades or Altadena, were you thinking, let me pack a bag now, or did that just come in the last couple hours?
It came in the last couple of hours, yeah. Even though, I've been waiting for Runyon. I've lived here 16 years, this place, for finally have a fire, and I guess it finally happened.
When it comes to
All right. Well, we got several people watching here. We'll go right back to the coverage here in just a minute. I did want to acknowledge a few chats here. Crazy White Boomer says, don't care. Remember the folks in East Palestine, Maui, Florida, and Western North Carolina. I'm not going to say that word. Thank you for watching, Crazy White Boomer. Thank you for being there. Patty says, remember the new scum cutbacks. 20 million. Not sure what that means. Guys, appreciate you being here. Thanks for watching. If you're new here, this is HamShackTV, normally a ham radio channel, but we also cover breaking news and breaking weather. Obviously, massive breaking news story with large wildfire just behind, just to the north of Hollywood. Most of Hollywood has been evacuated as we speak, and very dangerous situation. 2 other wildfires in Los Angeles County on top of this one, and it's pretty rough situation there. We'll continue watching it and check back in with you later. Guys, if you do like the stream and want to support the channel, HamShackTV is rapidly growing as fast as it can. Consider a channel membership. You can click the join button down below next to the subscribe button. While you're there, hit that subscribe button too. Helps the channel out. And then also you feel free to use the super chats down below next to the chat box. You'll see a little flashing green icon there. Thanks for watching. We'll send you back to ABC7.
Here off of Franklin and Hollywood, who are just too close for their own comfort and trying to get as far away from this fire as possible. Obviously, this is a developing situation with these cars moving. We're going to keep an eye as we see another police officer come up behind me to try to get the traffic flowing. The intersection behind me, and this is the problem, and I just want to leave on this note because, yes, there are a lot of cars.
Michael.
Yes, the roads are absolutely packed. This intersection is dumb because everyone is in the intersection, so no one can move. So the problem is everyone in every single direction is just jam-packed in the middle of the intersection, so no one's moving in any direction. There's no flow of traffic, and I think that's why the police just showed up a little while ago to try to get things moving. As we were coming up Franklin, the same thing was happening. No one can move in any direction if everyone's blocking at every intersection. It used to be one direction, then the next direction. At the moment, no directions are moving, and that's why you have this gridlock here behind me. I'll send it back to you guys in the studio as we look around for more folks who are leaving town.
Yeah, that is the absolute definition of gridlock that you're witnessing right now. It's what a mess, but we don't know what to tell people right now. Monitor it. We're going to get back to you, Tim, because at any given time, getting through Hollywood is tough.
Yes.
I mean, I dread it when I have to drive through that area. But boy, with the stress of this going on right now, that is a big, big problem. And by the way, the TCL Chinese Theater,
Only virus says this is what happens if you defund the fire department.
Tonight, sent employees home because they're right in the thick
I'm
of it
not
as
familiar
well.
with California politics other than the fact that they're kind of liberal.
And we will issue
so if they've done that, shame on them. Never, ever, ever defund a fire department for sure.
So let's go to Sophie Flay, who is standing by in Hollywood as well. Sophie?
Yeah, David, I'm at the intersection of Hollywood and Vine on the top of a residential building, and people in this building are evacuating. As I was coming up to the roof to kind of get a better look, people were saying they had their bags in their hand. They had their pets on leashes in their hand, and they were getting ready to go. I want to show you a better look at what it looks like behind me here. Again, towards Runyon, you can see the orange glow. It's really unthinkable to see this so close to, Hollywood proper, really the city of LA, just getting closer and closer. I am near the Capitol Records building that.
All right. Gino says Karen Bass moved funds from LAFD to LAPD. Also says Bass is the mayor of LA. Okay. Interesting perspective there. Yeah, it's probably not the greatest move. Luckily, there's CAL FIRE there. They're not just LA County, they're the whole state. I understand that there's also been resources being called in from other counties as well as some other states like Arizona. Gino says LA is crime ridden, but also big on fires. She didn't use her head when balancing the budget. That's the penalty you pay.
Front lines of the Eaton fire, where it was really powerful last night. But how is it feeling where you are now?
Again, can't thank everybody enough for tuning in.
Yeah,
appreciate
Colleen,
the support.
Actually, Tim was saying earlier that it was kind of a light breeze. Up here, it is really windy. Again, it's good to see that these helicopters are out here now, hopefully getting over there to assist with this firefight. But the wind is strong up here. There's about 12 floors in this building. It's very strong.
Reagan
That's
says
one of the things that
she's
really
a
screams at us right now is you're
DEI
standing at a little bit
hire.
of an elevation, but
What do you
think about
expect?
being
I'm
up in the
trying to
hills.
stay away
Those
from
winds are howling
political
right now, and
topics
that's
there,
part of
but
the problem. Sophie, you're doing a great job.
there's a lot
out
of
there.
that going on
Thanks
for
for that.
sure.
We're going to check back with
Gino
you.
says,
We do
yep.
have a Jacob on the phone with us. He is an evacuation from this Sunset Fire. And Jacob, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Great. What was your experience like when you were told to evacuate, and what did you see?
I mean, I was.
I'll tell you what I'll do, and I don't want to keep interrupting the coverage, but I'd like to get some channel members. And if you would like to join the channel, you can do that down below by hitting the join button next to the HamShackTV logo. But I'll tell you what else I'll do. If I get 5 super chats, doesn't matter the amount, but if I get 5 super chats before I go off air, I will gift 5 memberships to random members of the chat. So 5 super chats, and we'll give out 5 free memberships to the channel. Thanks for watching, everybody. Appreciate you being here.
The 101, but close enough to where it would become gridlock if I wait too long.
I was going to say, did you experience the gridlock that's happening right now?
Oh, yeah.
How did you get through it, and what did you think when you ran into the mass amount of people trying to get out?
Yeah, I mean, the way that we were heading, I headed basically as far east or southeast that I could go and then hopped onto the 5. So most people weren't heading that way en masse. It was, I guess, just felt a little heavier traffic than usual, but there were already roads closing down. I saw that they were like dealing with power lines and everything. So it seemed like I was getting out right before stuff really started to go intense.
Yeah, well, good thinking on your behalf. You know, for people who don't live in this area, can you explain the challenge for people to get down and get to an area to evacuate? Because the canyon, there's some narrow roads there.
Yeah, I mean, the roads are very small. Like you said, it's from when cars were small and then they got big and then small and then big again. And it's basically a neighborhood with almost exclusively apartment buildings of various sizes. So it's small roads and very densely populated. And it's also, you know, a like major tourist spot and just major spot in Los Angeles in general. So it's already hard enough to move around as is.
Did you have a sense that this would be happening to you during this wind event for the last couple of days?
I mean, I'm generally pretty anxious, so it was always in the back of my mind. But to be honest, kind of no. I knew that even though it's much closer than I've ever seen before with all these fires, it's still, especially when I'm, you know, in the middle of Hollywood, it doesn't really feel like, oh, that it's going to happen right here until all.
Reagan says amazing all 3 fires started at the same time. I don't have that perspective, Reagan, that was the case. What I understand is those 2 fires, the Palisades fire and the Eaton fire, were already going. And this particular, they're calling it the Sunset Fire. I'll call it the Hollywood Fire. Just started very recently. It just flared up. Could be wrong, but that was my understanding of it. Gino says, don't know why California in general adjusts fire codes to use gray water perimeter boundary sprinkler systems for buildings on hills or hillsides and dry areas for these emergencies. Again, that's over my knowledge out there, but good perspective for sure.
Several days now, but we were thinking that the winds would start dying down tonight. Is that holding true?
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, they're certainly less than they were, you know, just like you mentioned before, howling just yesterday, 24 hours ago. Now we're kind of down, heading towards kind of the lower end of it, but we're still seeing some of those stronger pockets. They're going to have the occasional stronger gusts. So now we're seeing some single-digit readings. That's good to see. But here you go, Pacific Palisades, still at that 20-mile-per-hour range. That's going on. We're showing those areas up around Pasadena. Still, you can see the purple indicating the 40, 50-mile-per-hour winds right here. So that's still an area of concern that we're going to be really watching through the nighttime hours. Overall, we tend to see a bit of a decrease in those winds during those early morning hours. But for right now, we're seeing those winds still strong in these pockets all over Southern California. You're still going to find many areas where those winds are still going to be howling, still really causing concerns. And not so much the sustained winds, but those gusts, because those just kind of pop up and really kind of make things really grow. For example, this fire we're talking about, Hollywood, a sunset fire, we're calling this. You know, Chris Christie found this, and it was about 10 acres when he spotted it. And last reading I saw, we're already doubled that within like an hour or so. So again, those winds, north, in that profile, the Santa Ana profile, northeast winds blowing towards the south. So all that smoke heading towards this part of Hollywood. So up there in the hills, we're seeing that fire with some vegetation there to fuel it, to keep it going. So here's a setup now for the Hollywood area specifically. So now down to single digits here, 7 o'clock hour, staying right around that range. But here's the good sign, David, Colleen. We get towards tomorrow morning, drive time. Now we're down to 2-3 miles per hour. That's nice. Then you see start of a rise a bit, somewhat by midday or so towards the afternoon hours. So these winds are still not done. We're still seeing some major concerns there. As far as the Palisades fire, there too, the winds there a bit stronger. We just showed you a second ago. So here's the pattern setting up. We're going to see a little bump up here in the 20s again, 9-10 p.m. or so. And then that decrease during those overnight hours. We head down to single digits by 7 a.m. tomorrow morning drive time. And then kind of hovering in that 5-7 mile per hour range. For the Eaton fire, same idea. For now, winds are still in that 20, 23, 40, 24 mile per hour range through the 7 o'clock hour. But subsiding down single digits overnight, early morning hours, a bit of a bump up around sunrise into midday as well. But again, nowhere near as strong as they were over those last few days when it just really ramped up. But that said, besides those winds, the low humidities, that red flag warning is going to hold in play pretty much till Friday in all the areas you see there in the red. So a little pocket is out of that red flag warning now, but pretty much everybody else still under that red flag warning until Friday. We're looking at about 6 p.m. or so. So the conditions being the winds, the low humidities, and the temperature's not too strong during the daytime, but it's more about the humidity and the winds that are really causing this red flag warning to stay in effect here until now Friday. So we saw another day of this. The winds, again, I showed you, subsiding somewhat tomorrow, but still of concern will be those gusts that do pop up. So those are still going to be in play throughout. So that red flag going to stay in play until the end of the week. So David and Colleen, we're going to see it kind of stay that way. And we're going to track this through the nighttime hours, of course, all the way through. And we'll kind of watch the pattern as it subsides somewhat. And we have to watch those gusts to pop back up again.
Absolutely,
All right,
Danny.
Colleen.
Thank you so much. And really quickly, we want to let you know that UCLA, they're canceling classes Thursday and Friday. We're just learning that they made the decision to curtail campus operations. And if you're a graduate student, courses are going to be remote for the next 2 days. Let's go over to the Palisades fire and Michelle Fisher for the latest there. Michelle, you are sort of on the border of Malibu Pacific Palisades, I believe.
Okay, just want to note, since they're going to this other reporter, there's been a little bit of this is one of the other fires. This is the Pacific Palisades fire, which is just to the northwest of Santa Monica. If you're familiar with the Santa Monica Pier and the west coast end of Route 66, this is kind of in that area. So I don't want to leave you in the dark and let you know that this is what they're talking about with the Palisades fire. Send you back to them.
Iconic restaurant has now been reduced to just a pile of smoldering rubble here. It once stood along Pacific Coast Highway. Now, the restaurant did post on its Instagram story today, sharing many messages from customers who shared their thoughts and their memories of the beloved beachfront restaurant. And it is just one here along Pacific Coast Highway that was lost to the Palisades fire. Also, the Real Inn and Rosenthal Wines, which was known for those oversized chairs and table that was out front of that restaurant. So Pacific Coast Highway, this coastline here with the restaurants and many homes just drastically changed forever in a very negative way as a result of the Palisades fire that we've been covering here in not only Pacific Palisades, but also in Malibu. As you mentioned, we're on the border right now. So when they say more than 1,000 structures, I think our first thought sometimes is it's homes, but this kind of points to the fact that it's also restaurants, and many of them beloved by the community. Another thing I also want to point out, especially as people are evacuating from their homes in the Hollywood area, is a reminder about looters. I think when I was last on air around 3 or so last night, my photog and I saw someone with a backpack going into a home along Pacific Coast Highway here. No one was at home at the time, obviously, because they had evacuated. The gentleman had a backpack on. He had a flashlight in his hands. And then after he left the home, he comes over and talks to us about how there were these vintage surfboards in the basement of the home that he was considering taking. He actually had the audacity to say that to us. My photog advised him that that was not a good idea to do that. And also, as I've been sitting in the news van here along Pacific Coast Highway, I got a notification from the Citizen app saying that the police had been called to a home in Pacific Palisades because someone had tried to enter a home there. So that's certainly a reality that we want to remind viewers of is unfortunately sometime when there are evacuations like the ones happening right now in the Hollywood area, criminals decide to go into these properties because they know that no one's going to be home and they decide to loot and take things, which is an unfortunate reality of some of these situations. So just a reminder for those who are evacuating to lock up your properties as best you can because people do use this as an opportunity to go in and loot and take things, and that's not what you want to come back and find. If your home is still standing, you don't want to come in and find that someone has gone inside and taken your beloved belongings, for sure. So that's the latest here along Pacific Coast Highway in Malibu. I'll go ahead and send it back to you guys in the studio now.
Yeah, Michelle, you make a great point. It's absolutely disgusting that these opportunists will take advantage of people who are losing so much. And part of the problem, and I'll just say this and we'll move on. At the press conference yesterday, you know, people are being told how to evacuate. Pack your bag, get out as soon as the word comes out, but leave your door unlocked.
Right.
That is because if your house is on fire, then authorities can get in there and probably save what they can or at least fight the fire. So you're leaving your door unlocked as you leave your home vulnerable to a predator, basically, who can go in there and steal everything.
And it goes against all your instincts to leave your home unlocked. I remember last night when I said unlocked. Oh gosh, I don't know. That would be the harder part. Leaving and evacuating is fine. Hoping that someone doesn't go and loot your home while you are evacuated is just horrible.
Disgusting.
But we do keep hearing law enforcement saying today, do not do that. And hopefully people are heeding those.
The new
words.
DA of LA, Nathan Hochman, whose sister lost her home in the fire in the Palisades, he spoke this morning to us about how he's bringing every measure of the law against these looters, who they are catching, and they will be prosecuting them. Let's stay in the Palisades right now and go to Jory Rand, who files this report.
Guys, this house is still burning. We had to move a little bit to the side because there are a series of loud explosions coming from inside that inferno of a garage. I think there's a couple vehicles in there. The gas tank might be exploding, but some of them have been extremely loud, and it is now fully engulfed. And you can see that while the front of the house, the garage is nothing but flame. If, Sean, when you pan up a little bit, we can see coming from the back, there are some really large flames burning in the rear portion of this house. And again, the major concern is just how close this home is to the home right next door, and somehow it has still survived the trees between them. They have not gone up, and that would be catastrophe. That would be worst case scenario should those trees breaking these two houses go up in flames, because it wouldn't be long for the home that is still somehow intact after these 24 hours remains so. And down comes the eave off the front of that house. We've been waiting to see when that would happen. We could tell it was imminent. Some pieces had been falling. In fact, there's a large pile of the upper portions of this home already laying in the driveway, and another large portion has just come down, as this home is now a total loss. It's just nothing but flames, and we're actually curious whether the garage door itself is going to collapse. We think we saw it kind of come off of its frame and sit down on the driveway, and it is slowly being taken apart, and something, there it goes. Something inside of that caught, and it might have been some kind of gas, because we could hear it burning, see those flames explode, and that just did the last little job on the rest of that garage door. And so a lot of flame and smoke now coming out of that garage. It's just intensifying as we stand here, and you look inside, it is nothing but flame. Nothing but flame on all sides of that garage, and that's one of the explosions we were talking about. That just continues to pop inside of that garage. Just a horrific scene. And again, you know, this house is a loss, and it is heartbreaking to see this happen before our eyes. But again, there is concern, and we are focused on the house next door as well. So we've gone 24 hours since this fire decimated the Pacific Palisades community. So many homes lost. We're talking hundreds. And here you have this miracle that has stood here and fully withstood what we have seen play out here. This house is fully intact only for tonight. There was almost nothing else burning in this town actively.
Oh, Brian, welcome to the stream, and welcome everybody else to the stream. Brian says, "Dear God, this is way out of hand." Yes, it is. This reminds me of, I'm in Tennessee. This reminds me of the Gatlinburg, Tennessee wildfires back in 2016, but on a much, much larger scale. So extremely dangerous situation if you're just tuning in. Welcome to HamShackTV. I'm your host, Josh, AA4WX. We usually do ham radio content here, but we also cover severe weather and some breaking news. If you want to support the channel, consider a super chat or a super thanks. It's the flashing green button next to the chat. Also consider hitting the join button right next to the subscribe button, and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Get you back over here to ABC-7. I want to thank them for their coverage. It's ABC-7 in Los Angeles. And yeah, by the way, if you're not familiar, they're talking about the Palisades fire right now. This is one of the 3 fires that are going on in Los Angeles County right now. Back over to them. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Incredibly tragic, Jory. Thank you for that. By the way, just to clarify, that is Bester Boulevard in Palisades. That was Jory on Bester Boulevard in the Palisades, one of many, many places that have suffered some tremendous loss out there. In the meantime, I know a lot of folks usually are watching Jeopardy or Wheel of Fortune right now. We want to let you know that Jeopardy will be on the air early in the morning at 2:06, followed by Wheel of Fortune at 2:36. So 2:06 and 2:36. Obviously, you can record it if you don't want to stay up that late. But we're sorry to interrupt your favorite programs, but obviously, I'm sure you understand. In the meantime, we do want to get to that weather forecast. It's very, very important at this point. We need some relief, Danny.
Yeah, well, you know, we're getting there eventually. We're kind of heading that way in terms of wind velocities. They're starting to come down. But certainly when this thing was blowing, it was causing some serious concern. So here's kind of an idea. Here's the idea that we've been dealing with. Definitely a strong to extreme level at the peak of these winds yesterday when it was really, really strong. Even today, the early hours too. So that's what we're dealing with. 40, 60, some 60, 100 mile per hour winds. We showed you some peak areas up in some mountain areas. Saw some very strong 100 mile per hour winds. So this wind event has certainly been a strong to extreme wind event. That's coming our way. That's what we're dealing with here over the last few days. So now setting up for us, Hollywood. We just showed you Hollywood there a few minutes ago. Those winds, here's the good news we talked about, starting to come down somewhat. Now keep in mind, we're going to go 9 miles per hour, so down to single digits here tonight, next few hours. And then even lower still, we get towards the morning hours too. And we stay in that single digit range throughout. But those gusts, which you have to be concerned about. Watching here now, give you an idea of the Hollywood fire, the Sunset Fire, they call them this one, right there by the hills above Hollywood. Right now it winds at that northeast range, 15 miles per hour, gusts 25 miles per hour. And those gusts are the ones that really spread those embers that we showed you in Jory's shot a second ago. So we're seeing that, and we're seeing how it's kind of set up close to Hollywood Boulevard, close to Franklin Avenue. We showed you that was a major thoroughfare, especially this time of night. People trying.
Gino says they can't fly the firefighting dumping planes because the winds and thickness of the smoke. I live in East Los Angeles, so 30 minutes from all these fires. Gino, I didn't realize you did. Do me a favor, man. Be safe. I have seen the helicopters up. I don't know about any planes, but Gino, if you're that close, Los Angeles means a lot to me. It was a great visit out there for my first trip out there last year. Just be safe if you do get an evacuation order. And we're thinking about you here in Tennessee for sure. Great place. If you're east of Los Angeles, okay, so you're over probably towards Fontana-ish area or Riverside, something like that. Okay. Well, we're thinking about you, and hopefully these fires stay west of you. But even more than that, we hope that they go out.
Single-digit readings there too. So the winds up around the Pacific Palisades fire. We're going to see this again. These winds still in that 19, 20 mile per hour range through the nighttime hours, finally coming down early morning, 3, 4, 5 a.m.
Colin in Australia. For those of you that aren't hams, Colin in VK. VK is a prefix for an Australian call sign. He says that Gino. Yes, good idea about the fire, about the sprinklers. They don't have that here in Australia. In hilly bushfire areas, and have plenty of tank water. as well as pumps that don't need electricity.
To the north of that, blown towards Pasadena area, and we can see here towards Riverside.
Andrew Cologne, because I'm from California, I've seen many wildfires, but I've never seen 1,000+ build burn one night. Yeah, this is insane, most insane. And Gino Collins calling for you here. Can you give more information about your proposed?
Reason for all these winds, that low pressure to our east and our south, right next to this ridge of high pressure, you get those gradient winds. You kind of squeeze out those winds there, and that's what really ramped things up for us here with this Santan event. Although now we're on the back side of it somewhat, but still all these areas, especially you see those reds and yellows right there, you're going to see it pop up again by tomorrow at noon. So we're not quite done with this yet, and we can see them really ramp up through the afternoon, evening hours tomorrow. So please do not get very comfortable here, because those spots, still the fire areas and all around, we can still see it being really, really strong. So here's how it's setting up now. Accurate the 7-day look. So still those winds, the fire danger there for LA Metro and Orange County through tomorrow. Temps in the 70s. We start cooling down for the weekend. A little more of an onshore flow as sea breeze comes back. So we see things kicking in. But next week, we're looking at another concern with winds and low humidities back in play. As far as our valleys, Inland Empire, same idea, where temps are seeing that 70s range for Thursday and Friday, cooling down for the weekend. So fire danger still a concern for a couple of days here. A slight break for the weekend, and then again, cautious next Monday and Tuesday. More winds ramping up one more time. Beaches are going to have that fire danger still in place, certainly next couple of days. That offshore flow is strong. And then we go more of the onshore flow to cool it down somewhat Saturday and Sunday. But we're going to watch the winds kick up again to start next week as well. Mountain spots, certainly the winds are very strong there. Mountain passes going 40, 50 mile per hour winds for a couple of days. Nighttime temps just really cold, teens and 20s there. Somewhat mild weekend, and then the winds back in play again next week. Same thing for the high desert. We're going to go 60s for the high. Palm Springs, low desert in the 70s, but those winds also strong Thursday and Friday, somewhat subsiding on the weekend, and then back in play.
Gino, just a heads up, Colin has put a link in the chat for you there.
It was dramatic last night. Leanne Suter, she's back on it. She has the latest details from Altadena.
We're going to try to give you guys a better idea of the extensive damage that we're seeing here in Altadena, and the best way to do it, we feel like, is to try to drive through it and show you some of what we're seeing. We're starting on Olive Avenue, just south of Altadena Drive, and right away on this corner, one of the first homes we see as we head down. The camera's going to be moving a little bit as we drive along. Photographer Brian Miller is going to try to show you some of them. Here's another house after house across the street as he moves. Here we go. Again, it's just home after home here in this neighborhood of Altadena, and it continues. It's hard to even count how many there are, and it goes like this for blocks. It's a scene that we have seen repeated time and time again in Pacific Palisades, but here in Altadena, much of the same. Again, here, more houses that are down. You can see some of the telephone lines that are down, and I see some residents starting to come out. And this way we're looking more homes that are down. I'm going to see if we can make it this way and show you some of the homes. I know that there's an area here that was completely, one of the streets looked like, I want to make sure we clear everything and we're not in any danger with any of this stuff. All right, here we go. This is, again, we just turned on to another side street, and you can see all of this damage. I mean, it's just mind-boggling how much has been lost here. And as I said, this continues down the side streets. On that side, we turn over here. Here's Wagner Court. Again, you look down in that direction. There's more people. Let me see if we can talk to this woman by chance. If we can talk to one of the residents. Would we be able to talk to you just really quickly? No, I don't. Thank you. Again, one of the residents coming in to see what's lost. And as I said, this entire street, everything in here completely destroyed. And as we look straight ahead, there's more damage. Unfortunately, this shows you why we can't continue down this road. All the power lines that are down, too dangerous for us to drive through there. But if we circled around, we might be able to show you, but that's another street that is Terrace. I believe that is Terrace Avenue. And we saw one side of the street there. Literally every home on that entire street has been wiped out. It's just, there is a lot of destruction, a lot of loss here in Altadena. In Altadena, Leanne Suter, ABC7 Eyewitness News.
Incredible. Leanne, thank you. And, we were talking while that was rolling, and it reminded me so much of Lahaina when you go through the Lahaina right after the fire, and it was just giant swaths of block after block of these residential neighborhoods that are completely gone.
But the feeling of going into these neighborhoods, when you see that, your heart just sinks. You covered the Lahaina fire. You remember what that feels like when you keep going. You almost can't believe it.
Mm-hmm.
It has to feel so surreal.
Yeah, and in the snap of a finger, it all just disappears. And that clearly is what happened in multiple communities. In fact, we want to bring you back to the Palisades now, where there has been tremendous loss. And Jory Rand has another location for us to look at.
Guys, we've got some great news. A fire engine from Santa Monica Fire Department showed up, and they put out the flames of this home. Not only that, but they saved the home next door. So where this was fully engulfed just a short time ago, the flames are almost entirely put out, nothing but smoke and a few embers being put up. But the danger we saw of that imminent incendiary event here at the home next door is now cleared. The firefighters are now cleaning up. They're wrapping up their hoses, and you can see another firefighter coming out from between these two homes here. This is such great news, and what looked like it could have been yet another disaster has been averted. Great work, and this is something that we weren't really seeing much of last night. The firefighters showing up and seeing the ground fight. We saw nothing in the air last night, at least in this area. But tonight, a bit of a different story. Conditions have calmed enough, and things have calmed down in this area enough for one engine to get over here and save this home. So here we are with some kind of small victory to kind of hang our hat on in a city that has seen devastation, nearly wiped off the map. Here we have a home that made it. Some good news to one family. You know, it's little solace for the rest of the town, but at least we take the little victories where we can get them. And here tonight, this Santa Monica fire crew did a great job, and we have one here to report tonight.
Jory, thank you so much for that report. At least we can get a little good news from Jory there as they have saved that house. So, we don't say it enough, but a tremendous amount of homes are being saved as we speak. In the meantime, we have somebody joining us who is a dear friend of us and a dear friend of George Pinocchio. Rita Lee is joining us via the telephone. Unfortunately, the circumstances aren't great. Rita, thank you for calling in and talking to us. I understand you had to